So welcome to our financial aid information night. My name is Maria Sandoval Perez. I'm one of the college and career advisors, and I'll go ahead and let the rest of our team introduce themselves.
Hi, I'm Esther Lipke. I am the other college and career advisor along with Maria Sandoval.
My name is Jill Weeks, and I am the support center secretary, and I support the counselors in our office, as well as Esther and Maria and Roseanne Roberts. I kind of help with everybody in our support and our success center. Did I say support? I meant success. Yep.
Hi, my name is Elena, and also do Immunity Center and help Mrs. Roberts and Maria and Esther and everybody else can help.
Perfect. All right. So Jill and Elena are here to help us out and manage the chat and all of that fun stuff kind of behind the scenes. So really appreciate them for helping us out. So again, welcome to our financial aid information night. We'll be going through this presentation. Feel free to ask questions in the chat. We'll be monitoring that. You can wait until the end as well, or you can do it throughout the presentation, or you can also unmute yourself and just ask the question. We're totally open to that and interruptions and all of that. So overview of tonight, financial aid information, applying for aid, common mistakes that we see with the FAFSA or ORSA, the timeline, financial aid eligibility, types of aid, and then Oregon specific opportunities. First, we think it's important to know just some vocab. Financial aid is any type of aid that is used to help a student pay for college. FAFSA is the free application for federal student aid, and the ORSA is the Oregon student aid application. There will also be, of course, other important vocab throughout the presentation, and we'll go through that when that time comes. So how do I apply and when? It's important to review admissions and financial aid information on the websites for each school that the student is applying to. You really want to make sure that you meet all application deadlines. So the FAFSA and the ORSA open up in October. The FAFSA is for students that are U.S. citizen, legal permanent residents, and the ORSA is for students that are undocumented here living in Oregon. So you don't complete one, you complete one or the other, not both, unless you are an ORSA student, an undocumented student, and the financial aid office asks you to complete the FAFSA, and usually at that point it might be like a paper version of the FAFSA. But really, if you are a U.S. citizen or legal permanent resident, you're just going to be doing the FAFSA. So that's the only thing you have to worry about. You might also be asked, depending on the school, to complete the CSS financial aid profile through the College Board. But again, that's only if it's required by the school. That's a very limited amount of schools. Usually they're on the East Coast schools, pretty highly selective schools. Make sure that you submit all requested follow-up information. So the financial aid process, what happens is that students that will be completing the FAFSA, they will get an FSA ID, and a parent will also, if the parent has a social security number. Then you complete the FAFSA or the ORSA online, again, starting October 1st, and you want to do it as close to or in October as possible, because financial aid can run out, and so you don't want to miss out on any opportunities. Then it goes into the central processing system that processes the FAFSA, and then that will calculate the student's EFC, which we'll get into here in a little bit. And then the student will receive their student aid report. So it's basically a report of what they put into their FAFSA. And it has an estimate of the EFC and an estimate on some of the loans and scholarships or grants, really, that they could or might receive. And then the schools that the student entered on their FAFSA or ORSA will also receive this information, so that then they are able to provide the student with a financial aid award letter. So the FSA ID, it consists of a username or password, and that is just to increase the security level for the user, of course. The FSA ID is needed to log into the FAFSA, to the student loan data system, to studentloans.gov, student aid. So it's all of that kind of federal financial aid. You're going to need that information to log in, and you create that FSA ID. Seniors can go ahead and do that now if they want. They can create their FSA ID. That is open now, but then you'll be completing the FAFSA again starting October 1st or close to that. Both the student and one parent will need that FSA ID, which again is that username or password. Unless the parent is undocumented, then they will not request an FSA ID, okay? You do need separate email addresses for the student and the parent in order to create that ID. So students and eligible parents should create it as soon as possible, just to make it easier for submitting and signing the FAFSA. You can do it at the end of junior year or the summer prior to senior year. So if you haven't done it now for any seniors, you can go ahead and do that. It's a pretty simple application. One thing that's important to know is you want to make sure that your name that you use on when you're creating the FSA ID is exactly how it appears on your Social Security card. So make sure that those names match when you're creating that FSA ID. Parents and students should write down and retain all of the information that is being used to create that FSA ID, including the username, password, email address, security questions. All of that will come in handy when you're completing the FAFSA. So this is the website. We have heard that there are going to be a few changes to like the website itself, but the FAFSA application and the questions are remaining the same for this year. There will be changes to next year's FAFSA. So for any juniors that we have, when you guys are applying senior year, the FAFSA will look different. It'll have different questions on there. And then for any seniors, when you're completing your FAFSA again to receive financial aid for your second year in college, that FAFSA will look different for you guys as well. So again, it's available starting October 1st. Students will be reporting the 2-year prior tax information. So for example, if you are completing the 2022-2023 college school year FAFSA, so that's one thing that we always have issues with. Students think that they're going to be completing this year's FAFSA, right? And that makes sense to do the 2021-2022 FAFSA because that's the school year we're in. But that's not the school year that the student is requesting financial aid. So you want to make sure that you're requesting you're completing the financial aid form for the school year that you will be attending college. So for our seniors, they'll be attending college during the 22-23 school year. And so that's the FAFSA that they will be completing. And they will be using 2020 tax information. So you want to start gathering that information and have it ready. For the following school year, so juniors, they will be completing the 23-24 FAFSA, and that will require 2021 taxes. So what this means with the 2 prior year information is that things are more accurate in terms of tax information. You don't have to estimate anymore. A few years back, you had to estimate and then go back in and update your FAFSA. So now it's more accurate information right off the bat. You also get earlier financial aid awards that are finalized, and you have more time to resolve any conflict. So a lot of us remember that the FAFSA used to open in January 1st. Now it's just giving you additional time to get that done, make any corrections, resolve any issues that you may run into. So you want to make sure that you're gathering the proper documents for both the student and the parent. So Social Security numbers, and again, that name on the Social Security card. Earned income for the reporting tax years. So again, this year's seniors for 2020. Tax information, you might be able to use the IRS data retrieval tool, which basically it links you to the IRS website. If you're able to log in there, they will transfer your information directly onto the FAFSA. It's really nice and convenient, and you're less likely to be selected for verification if you're able to do that. Not all students are able to use that tool. For example, students that have undocumented parents won't be able to use that. And then even students who parents do have a valid social security number, sometimes there's just an issue and it doesn't happen. So if you're able to use it, it's a nice tool. Any records of untaxed income and then current assets as of today. So as of when you're completing the FAFSA. And we have the list of documents that you're going to need linked in here, and we'll share this with you guys at the end of the presentation. So what's on the FAFSA? The colleges that the student is going to apply for, and you can include up to 10 schools. It's going to have student information and spouse information if the student is married. Anything from name, date of birth, social security number, all of that. Then income information, taxable and untaxed income. And then any benefits that the student may receive, like SNAP, free or reduced lunch, and any assets. So any savings account information, checking account information. Some of those questions can be skipped depending on how you answer the FAFSA. It's also going to ask for parent information for students that are dependent. Most of our students are dependent, so you're considered a dependent student even if you aren't living at home. But if you're not married or have children that you are supporting, you are considered a dependent student until the age of 24, I believe. So that's the only way to become an independent student, is either by getting married, having children that you support on your own, or turning 24. Other than that, everyone's considered a dependent student and will have to provide parent information. Same type of parent information, tax information, name, date of birth, social security numbers, and stuff like that. You'll also have to include the number of people in the household and the number of people that will be going to college during that school year. Oh, Esther, you're muted.
Maria already went into some detail about the IRS retrieval tool. It is a good tool to use if you're able to. Eligible parents and students, as she mentioned, will just be able to bring in their IRS tax information if they're able to do it that way. The FAFSA itself, prior to that, does include some logic questions, and then within depending on how you answer those questions, it will determine whether or not you will be able to use the retrieval tool or not. If you can't, then it'll just provide you a message that you need to enter your own information manually. And so that's why it's important to keep those documents needed to complete the FAFSA, just in case this happens. So some of the challenges of the IRS retrieval tool is if your addresses don't match what's on file with the IRS, so that's really critical. If you can't use your tax filer's marital status has changed since the filing of the taxes, which can happen. It can't be used if legal parents live together but they are not married. Another stipulation that where you can't use it is if parents are married but they file their taxes separately. You cannot use it if foreign or U.S. territory tax, if you're a foreign or U.S. territory tax filer. And it cannot be used if parents use the I-10 to file their taxes. So along with that, there's also frequent FAFSA errors that can occur. One of the big ones is the parent and student social security numbers do not match. There's also some problems where divorced, remarried, unmarried, or living together parent information. This belongs on the form. Income earned by parents / step-parents. Untaxed income can also come into effect as an error. U.S. income taxes paid. The household size, sometimes the student forgets to include themselves. And then, of course, the last step of completing the FAFSA is either electronic signature or having to print a page, sign it, and mail it in. And it's really important that you, after going through this whole process, that last step gets completed. Oregon Student Aid Application, or the ORSA. Also, Maria kind of touched base with this. It's undocumented or DACA students have to use this application. This application is a separate site from the FAFSA. And you can find it other grants through the OSAC, which is including the Oregon Opportunity Grant and Oregon Promise, which are available to undocumented and DACA students. Some institutions, again, will also use ORSA to award institutional aid. You won't be eligible for federal aid, so that's why the application is separate. And you can complete this online on the Oregon studentaid.gov. And again, this will open at the same time that the FAFSA opens, which will be October 1st, next week, actually. So it's really important to read all your communication, with regard to your financial aid applications and with what we send during school. You will receive a student aid report, which is they refer to as SAR. This will be the first notification that something is incomplete or incorrect on your FAFSA. So that way you'll be able to log back in and see what there is and be able to correct it. Read your email, personal email, and school and emails from the schools as well, because they will be getting this information based on which schools that you put on the FAFSA. So financial aid offices will communicate with you about incomplete FAFSAs or missing information, or if they require additional information and what the next steps you need to do to take. And of course, you can always follow up with a phone call. So to kind of go over the student aid report, again, the SAR, that's how you will see it. You'll receive this report. It contains the expected family contribution, which is EFC. So those two acronyms you'll see throughout this presentation and in your emails that you'll get. Some scholarships, some school scholarships will ask for the EFC to those schools that you put on your FAFSA. And it'll also allow you to correct any errors and then resubmit your FAFSA. A copy of your SAR, like as I mentioned, is also sent to your colleges listed on the FAFSA, and this will help them calculate other eligibility for all types of aids that they would be coming from institutions and awarded in your award letter. This is a question we get several times, probably every year. Parents often say that they make too much money and they don't feel that they will qualify for any financial aid. But some things to consider, and some things that we remind our parents, is that some scholarship agencies will require the FAFSA as part of their scholarship requirement. Some scholarships, some colleges also will require it to determine non-need-based financial aid. The financial aid by completing the FAFSA does include student and parent loans that you are eligible to receive. And sometimes your circumstances may change and your financial aid office may consider them, and some of the examples of those changes are there below. So what if something happens financially, and this has probably occurred quite a bit the last couple of years due to the pandemic. You should know that you can always contact your financial aid office at the school and ask for a special circumstance process. They are probably pretty similar from school to school, but there might be some differences, and so it's really important to reach out to every school. So potentially adjustments can be made to your financial aid information if it doesn't represent what your family situation is at the time, at the current time. That means after you've submitted your FAFSA. So there could be a loss or reduction of income, something happening to your family parents' divorce status, some catastrophic medical or dental expenses, which could happen, and then of course, non-recurring payment that is received. So do not attempt to complete this special circumstance adjustment. Let the schools adjust it. They have the the forms and the tools and the resources to help you. So that's why it's really important to reach out to those schools. You can also use Swift Student, which is a free tool to students to help them write an appeal letter, which will be part of the process. And so again, that will be shared in the presentation at the end of the evening tonight. Financial aid eligibility. So there are different types. There's merit-based aid, which is non-need based, and that those are scholarships kind of fall under that umbrella. That the selection is usually based on the student's academic record, what shows on their transcript, that how aggressive they were in their schoolwork, other means of performance. If the student is really musically inclined and has taken a bunch of music classes, athletics, drama, leadership, your role in the leadership also can come into play. Financial, family financial information is usually not required to determine eligibility because again, this is a non-need based aid, and then criteria and then deadlines for this process are unique to each institution. So that's one thing to kind of really take into consideration, that we are presenting the general circumstances, but it's always best to find out from your own school what the specifics are. Financial aid eligibility, to continue on that, now we're talking about need-based aid. So this is where the family financial information can come into play so that they can determine the financial capacity of the family and how those are going to meet the college costs of this the school the student is planning on attending. Most federal and state financial aid is need-based. There's grants, need-based loans, and federal work study, which are all pieces that you will be able to see your eligibility through the FAFSA. And then scholarships can also be need-based. And we had mentioned this before, where some of them may require the financial, the EFC, in order to see that need. Okay, so before we move on to scholarships, you're going to find some more information about scholarships in that link that we're going to provide. Every year we hold a scholarship information night, and this year we will hold it, whether virtually or in person, we don't know, on January 12th, excuse me. And Vicki Ring is one of our 5 counselors at the high school, and she's also our scholarship coordinator. So she will be sending out information as the time nears. Last year, we kind of adopted or started to use a Going Merry platform. So in this, there are national and state scholarships. We plan to also, last year we were not able to do it, but this year we hope to incorporate our local scholarships into the site. There's going to be a short video and some more information. The links are there that you can look at. We've already got some students signed up through Going Merry. Students can sign up as early as their freshman year, and they stay on the account inevitably, even after they graduate from college. And after that, it also has this year a new platform that we may utilize, which is a FAFSA tool, and more information will be coming out on that via Parent Square. So here are some other acronyms in terms that you'll hear. So here's a definition of eligibility, and this is a formula that is used. So the COA, which is cost of attendance at the school, and again, those differ from school to school, private, public, community college, minus the EFC, which we talked about, which is the expected family contribution, which equals the financial aid eligibility or the need. Cost of attendance includes tuition and fees, of course, room and board, whether it's on or off campus, living expenses, books and supplies, transportation expenses, the student coming home for the holidays, personal expenses, maybe buying a new laptop, or things like that. Study abroad costs, which a lot of schools do have, and they incorporate that into their curriculum or the program of study that the student decides to pursue, and the expenses associated with a disability.
Okay, so the expected family contribution, the EFC, it's an index of the family's financial strength. So it's equally fair and unfair to all who apply, and it's just how it is. So the lower EFCs are more likely to receive need-based aid than higher EFCs. It stays the same regardless of the college. So although colleges may use a different analysis for their institutional funding, the like federal EFC stays the same for the student regardless of the college that they're applying to. Calculated using the FAFSA and the federal formula, and then the ORSA as well, same thing. It uses the ORSA information. Two components: it has a parent contribution and a student contribution. So what exactly is the EFC? It considers parent and student income. It may consider parent and student assets, considers the number of family members, considers the number of children in college. This may change. This is one of the changes that we heard for next year. And it excludes parents in college. So if the parent is attending college, that doesn't make a difference. It's the number of children that are siblings that are in college. Again, we've heard that may change for next school year. It does not consider an individual family's monthly financial commitments or anything like that. So again, that formula for eligibility, it's the cost of attendance minus the expected family contribution, and that's what equals the financial aid eligibility or the need of the family. So the cost of attendance, that can differ, right? It's a lot more expensive to go to Harvard than it is to go to Chemeketa, right? So the cost of attendance for each school is going to be different. The expected family contribution, that's going to stay the same. And so then the financial need is going to be different based on the college. So the more expensive the college is, the financial contribution is going to stay the same, but then the financial need is going to be higher for those schools that cost more to attend, right? So the net price calculator, it's used to estimate financial aid eligibility and costs at any institution. So all institutions need to have the net price calculator on their website. The student will input both academic and income information. And then the net price is defined as the total cost of school minus the amount of need-based aid you receive based on the family's financial situation. So some will estimate merit-based aid as well. So this is a neat tool, that you can use now if you want, but especially for juniors, it's nice to be able to go in and start calculating that net price calculator. So types of financial aid, it could be grants, scholarships, loans. So loans are also financial aid, and then work. Sources of financial aid, it can be institutional aid, right? Aid that's coming directly from Linfield or Chemeketa or Harvard or, Oregon State. Federal aid, so aids that's coming from the federal government, that's only eligible for U.S. citizens and legal permanent residents. Aid that comes from the state, so the Oregon Opportunity Grant, Oregon Promise, and then private aid as well. So that will all make up the financial aid package for the student. So how much will I receive? So college financial aid offices will let students know the amount of aid that they are eligible to receive. Colleges will use the student's EFC to prepare the financial aid package to help meet the financial need. They will send some type of award letter, whether that's electronic or paper. So make sure that that students are checking their mail and email regularly, because depending on the school, some might still send them in the mail. Some are doing electronic. Usually it's through the portal. So when students are applying for the colleges, they create a portal to be able to access the admissions application and submit it that way. So sometimes it's through the student portal. So understanding award letters, read your award letter carefully. So all awards are shown differently. It's just how it is. So you want to make sure that you're really paying attention. You can see this resource here, and you can, it's a link that you can click on and view it a little bit later. But you can see what a financial aid award should have. They don't all look like this, but it should have this type of information. So what if it's not enough? You know, we run into that a lot of students that are applying and they don't have enough financial aid. Talk to the financial aid office at the school. You know, sometimes they're able to pull other resources or give you resources for additional funding. Sometimes that's in the term of loans, that, you know, other ways to help you finance your education. And ask questions. So contact the financial aid office, ask questions if you don't understand. Mrs. Lipke and I are happy to help students kind of review their award letters and make sense of it, but the real experts are the financial aid offices. So standard types of gift aid. So this is free money, right? So federal grants, like the federal Pell Grant, the Supplemental Educational Opportunity Grant, the Teach Grant. So that's for students that are going into teaching. State grants, the Oregon Opportunity Grant and Oregon Promise Grant, both of those are open to undocumented students. Institutional grants, so George Fox, Willamette, Western Oregon, they have their own grants that they can award to students, and then scholarships. So these are all types of free money. You're muted, Esther.
So I got out of the habit from last year. So the federal grants, going back to that, Pell Grant is one of them. It's awarded to eligible undergraduates. It's portable, which means it can be accepted and used by different institutions or colleges. The actual award amount, again, here are the acronyms, is based on the COA and EFC, and then the enrollment status. The maximum Pell Grant, it changes every year, not by much, but currently, as of last year, it was a little over $6,000. So the SEOG grant, the supplemental grant, the award amounts vary from school to school, and there's limited funded for this grant. So this is another reason why we encourage families to complete the FAFSA application, hopefully sometime in October, because this and other financial aid opportunities are based on a first come, first served basis. The Oregon Opportunity Grant, student must be an Oregon resident and attend an Oregon college or university. The awards differ again from community college to a four-year public or private school. It depends also on the level of enrollment. You don't have to do a separate application. It's an auto application that is just goes in with the FAFSA or ORSA. And as mentioned several times, complete the FAFSA or ORSA as soon as possible to maximize your aid. And this will also help you kind of navigate how you need to come up with additional funds to complete or minimize some of your loans and stuff. And it's awarded on a rolling basis. The Oregon Promise Grant, this is exclusive to Oregon community colleges, and there are 17 community colleges in Oregon. A couple of the requirements: you must be an Oregon resident and lived in Oregon for the past 12 months. You have to have a cumulative 2.5 GPA at the time of your Oregon high school graduation. We do have some students that graduate or complete early. So it would depend on the graduation date, which most of them are in June. The award amount will vary depending on the ESC and also by the school. And we don't know, or they don't come out with those award amounts until late in spring, just when those are set. You complete the Oregon Promise application through the OSAC, and you must add an Oregon Community College on your FAFSA and ORSA, so that's how they can track that you are interested in a community college. And then just as you have portals for your four-year schools, you're going to have an OSAC portal where you should be looking into and finding any updates. And the Oregon Promise is open right now. It usually doesn't, in the past, hasn't opened until late October or November, but we received notification that it is now open. So that's really good. So just a couple more additional information on the Oregon Promise. It covers tuition for up to 12 credits per term in colleges. I have the typical 3 terms, the fall, winter, and spring, and some have the summer terms, but a lot of times students don't take advantage of that. The tuition amount provided is offset by state and federal grants that the student receives. There is a $50 per term copay for the grant, which is kind of embedded in or paid for through the funding that you get. The Promise does not cover room and board, just or fees or books. And the award amounts are based on the credits taken. So with this grant, you don't, being a full-time or a student, one that is taking 12 credits is not required. The requirement is 6 to 12 credits, but then your funding or your aid that you're getting from the Oregon Promise will reflect on the number of credits you're taking. So it covers up to 90 credits at a community college. So this does include any college credit that our students have earned through high school. So this is really important to note. If you've earned college credit, you've already started calculating credits on transcript, and it only covers up to 90 credits. And it also includes attempted credits. So if you're a college credit now student and you registered for a class and then later decided to withdraw, that still shows up on your transcript and is identified as an attempted credit. The standard types of self-help aid are loans. There's the direct student loans, which are either subsidized or unsubsidized. The direct parent plus loan, and then there's loans, alternative loans from private lenders like your bank or your credit union, if you can do that. There's student employment, which is federal work study, which schools will offer in your financial aid package if you are eligible. And then there's also institutional campus employment that is separate from the federal work study, which is based on completion of the FAFSA. There are direct student loans. There are limits on those. So there are annual loan limits. You can see here the freshmen and the number of credits, sophomores, and then juniors and seniors have the same number of credits. And those are the loan amounts that are the limits for the number of credits and your status in college. The subsidized loans, they must demonstrate need, the family must demonstrate need, and are awarded to those that do qualify based on that. And the government pays interest while you are at school. So as long as you are attending school, you do not pay interest on these loans. Once you graduate from college, then interest will start accruing. Unsubsidized loans, on the other hand, the interest accrues as soon as your first disbursement of the loan to pay for your first term that you need the loan money from. It is not based on need, and it is available to all with the FAFSA. With the direct student loans, they're guaranteed approval to qualified students. Repayment, you have a grace period of 6 months after you graduate from college to start repaying. This is, of course, an average term of repayment of the loan. It all depends on the amount of the loans, how many more years you might continue in school. So that is the average. There are loan forgiveness programs for teachers, nurses, and other public service employment. Those are also based on where you teach, where you get a job, a nursing job. So it is not eligible for everybody. And deferment and cancellation provisions are available on these loans. The Direct Parent Plus loan, these are loans available to parents, and one parent must apply and be approved for these loans and for the amount that they are requesting. There could be an appeal option, and there needs to be an endorser or a co-signer option as well for that one parent. You are able to borrow up to the cost of attendance. So the cost of attendance minus all other aid will give you your maximum Parent Plus loan eligibility. You can request in-school deferment. This is unsubsidized, and you can apply online at the website listed there. Other loans, student loans, private, which are considered alternative educational loans, like with your local bank or credit union, as we mentioned. Most will require a creditworthy co-signer, so that could include you guys as parents to do that. There are institutional loans within the colleges that the students attend, and then of course always check with your financial aid office as well to see what they can offer and what how they can help you with that. The parent loans, they're private, again, alternative educational loans. They are also, you get them through the banks or lending programs. There's a limited program available, and it is credit-based. So all these stipulations do occur for parent loans and student loans. Employment opportunities, students can work part-time while enrolled, or depending on how they're able to adjust their schedules, maybe more. The types of work that is available to them would be federal work study, which requires the FAFSA, and it is need-based. Again, this will show up on, if the student is eligible, it will show up on their financial aid application. And we always recommend that students say yes, that they would be interested in the federal work study. There's campus employment, which is funded directly just by the school. You may or may not need to require the FAFSA, may or may not be need-based, and may not be included in the financial aid package. This would be something that you seek out while on campus and go that route. So we know this is a lot of information. We do hold a lot of workshops, and we want to help and support you and you guys as students and your families through all of this. We do have financial aid and college application workshops, which are coming up shortly, and this kind of coincides with the opening of the FAFSA. They're drop-in. We just found out actually this morning that we're able to have those in person. There'll be some guidelines and stuff that we'll have to follow, but this will be really good to have these in person. And it will be at in our food court. And we'll also have one on November 17th, which will probably be virtual. So again, we know this is a lot of information. A lot of it is college-based information, because that is the most stressful, most time-consuming most step-worthy process for students if that's the route they want to take after graduation. That will help students with anything they're interested in. You could either call or email us with your questions or set up an appointment. Right now that we're in person, we can just drop in, and if we're available, we will certainly see you, hopefully not during your class time. You can later view this demo video that we've got for the FAFSA and ORSA for step-by-step instructions on how to complete each application. But keep in mind that we'll be available to help also in the workshops that will. Families are invited to the Paying for College presentation hosted by ECMAC. And you can find the details here. It's a similar presentation, but it might have something new or that it pertains to you specifically.
All right, so now the fun stuff. So we're gonna hold a raffle, and I'm going to go ahead and stop sharing my screen so that Jill Weeks can share her screen. So she has taken down your guys' name, and we'll do a fun little wheel of fortune.
Yeah.
So let's
Okay,
see.
great. I will share my screen. And let's get this going.
And we will have time for questions here. We just really want to make sure that everyone stuck around for the raffle.
So I just put the first name that I saw on the for the Zoom. So I know a few people left, but we'll just see who's here and go ahead and spin it. Can you see my screen?
Yes.
Okay, here we go. Looks like Mike is the first winner.
All right, Mike, are you still here?
Is Mike
Yes,
there?
Yes,
Great.
we're here.
Okay, perfect. So it's Connor is the student, correct?
Yes.
Okay, so just have Connor see us in the Success Center tomorrow, and we'll get that raffle item for you. It's some college gear, so
Great, thank you.
yeah.
Awesome. Are we doing it one more time?
Yep, one
Yep.
more.
Okay, here we go. Christy.
What's up?
All right, perfect. So if you can come and see us in the Success Center tomorrow.
My name's Caden, by the way.
Caden, what's your last name?
Perez.
Perfect. All right, Miss Weeks is writing that down. So come see us tomorrow in the Success Center, and we'll go ahead and get you your prize. Okay, so now we'll go ahead and take any questions. I do see one here in the chat. And it says, can you explain the OSAC again? So OSAC is an organization for students here in Oregon. It holds over 600 scholarships. So students can apply for the OSAC scholarships with one application. There's over 600 scholarships. However, students are limited to the amount of scholarships that they can apply for. I believe it's 20, but even then, students end up qualifying for, I would say maybe 6 to 8 scholarships or so from those, because even though it has 600, some are limited based on the high school or based on GPAs or, different criteria. So students aren't going to be eligible for all 600 scholarships. We see students, again, around 6 to 8 scholarships that they're eligible for. So they are able to apply for those scholarships using one application. And so that the actual OSAC scholarship piece opens up usually November 1st. And so students are able to get started on that. It's not a difficult application, but it is time consuming. And so you want to make sure that you are, kind of looking at that, kind of keeping that in mind. So don't wait until March 1st, which is the deadline. So November 1st is when the scholarship applications open up. You can go ahead and start doing that. And then February 15th is the early bird deadline. The benefits to that is that if you are error-free, so you completed your application, there aren't any issues, you are entered into a drawing for a scholarship. If you have some errors, so maybe you forgot to have the school verify your GPA, or maybe you forgot an essay as part of the application, whatever it may be, you have until March 1st, which is the final deadline to apply. Also with the OSAC is the Oregon Opportunity Grant, which Ms. Lipke talked about. So you can apply for that grant through the OSAC website. They also manage the Oregon Opportunity Grant and the Chafee Grant for students that were in foster care. So that's kind of OSAC in a nutshell.
Something to consider is students really need to open up and look at the scholarships that they feel are matched to them. The matches may occur because of a key word within the application, but there may be additional requirements within that scholarship. So it's really important that the student looks into that. So our next question is, would a parent with an FSA account need to create another? And the answer is no. We don't want you creating another. If you have one already and have the login information and able to utilize that, then you do not create a new one.
All right, next question. How do divorced parents affect household income? If one parent is not involved in student's life, does their info need to be included? Parent does not claim me on their taxes. So that's a great question. So for students that have divorced parents, you will be reporting well, I guess it depends. So if you live with mom, then that's who you're going to be reporting on the FAFSA. If mom is remarried, you will be putting mom's information and stepdad's information on there. So you will report the parent that you live with. If it's split 50-50, you're going to have to look at a calendar and see who you stayed with the most, okay? So whoever you stayed with the most is the parent that goes on your FAFSA. If they are remarried, you also enter step parent information, okay?
Yeah, you do not have to be adopted by the step parent. So that regardless of that status, once your biological parent, whoever you're living with, has remarried, both incomes are required for the FAFSA.
All right.
Are there any other questions?
And if there are questions that you want to ask privately, you can do so in the chat and just send it to one of the hosts. Or you can ask to be placed into a breakout room and we'll go in there and just do a one-on-one. Or you can also email us your questions.
Well, we're happy that you joined. We're happy that you felt it was helpful. We sometimes feel like we bombard our parents and students with just so much information that they get overwhelmed. But one thing we always want to make sure that they do understand, bottom line, is that we're here to help with the process. So you're not doing it all by yourself. Again, we have workshops. You don't need to attend a workshop. If you can't, you can come see us directly. So as time consuming and stressful as this process for college can be, we're here to help with that or anything else.
All right, if there aren't any other questions, then thank you again for coming. And again, we're here to help and support you all. So just let us know how we can do that.
We'll hope to see you either in person or in Zoom again. So good night, everybody. Thank you.